All right, I'm calling the meeting to order. My name is Richard Hewitt, and this is the Albemarle County Police Department's Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. And this is Tuesday, June 8th, and of course it is 9 a.m. So one of the housekeeping things that I do at each meeting is, of course, read the protocol statement for the COVID announcement, which I will do right now. And when I call your name, please say present in terms of members. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20-A-14, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 pandemic. The members who are electronically present at this meeting are, please state your, let's see, Brian Williams.
Present.
Of course, Diantha.
Present.
John Spriggett.
Present.
Is Olga here yet? Olga's not here yet, but will be joining us shortly. And of course, Richard Hewitt present. The opportunities for public to access and participate in the electronic meetings are posted on the Albemarle County website calendar, www.albemarlecounty.org, and at www.publicimport./PDCAC. All right, well, that housekeeping is completed, and I'd like to welcome Donna Price, who is our visiting supervisor from the Scottsville District. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you, Richard. It's great to be here.
All righty. And is Deputy County Executive Doug Walker with us? I guess he'll be joining us later. All right, then. Do we have an approval of the minutes on April 13th? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All righty, then, of course, our next is a permanent member of our committee's agenda, which is matters before the public. And Chief, do you have any matters from before the public? Oh, there's our friend who has just arrived. Welcome, Deputy County Executive Doug Walker. Thank you for coming. Do you have your audio?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, appreciate the opportunity to join you today. Looking forward to the presentation.
All right, sounds good.
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you as well. All right, then the matters before the public is a permanent member of item on our agenda, and this has to do with the folks in the community that may have a concern, congratulations, something positive to say, or of course, something negative about an experience that they've had. Have we had any come in since the last meeting?
Richard, we've not had any come in regarding our CAC meetings. We've had quite a few compliments come in via email unrelated to CAC since our last meeting, but no questions or comments related to our CAC from the public.
What are some of the nature of the ones that have come in that have said positive comments from the public?
It's typically an interaction with a police officer that left them with a positive impression of the police department, which I love receiving. I actually have received a couple this month where officers have made traffic stops and left the person in a better place if they found them, which is what my expectations are. So it's really refreshing to be able to share those staff. We've had a couple complaints where citizens called in for service and they needed assistance and the officers went above and beyond the call. So we've received emails like that this past week.
Well, that's very good. You know, you're really, the police department in many ways is the ambassador of our community. And so having officers realize that their experiences with the interaction of the public and the patrol, particularly department, is really a way which reflects the personality of our community. So those are important things to get. And if I'm a member of the public or one of my neighbors and I have a concern or a complaint, an accolade or whatever, what's the best way for us to, for members of the community to reach the police department and be able to discuss their concern or their appreciation?
Richard, the best way is to go to askthechief@albemarle.org That's askthechief@albemarle.org. I receive all those, and several members of my staff do, so we always have eyes on them, make sure we don't lose them in the shuffle with all the emails that we all get, and we're able to respond to them and give them the service they need from there.
All righty, I'd like to take a moment and welcome Olga. Thank you for joining us, Olga. It's always good seeing you. All right, so we have a full crowd today. All right, moving on to new business. Mr. Williams last meeting had indicated that he wanted some communication with some members of the African American community, and either Sean or Major Jenkins were going to reach out to the African American community again. And what can you report back in terms of an update, Sean, about Member Williams' request? Sean, did you hear me? Does Sean have his audio on?
He's working on it, looks like, Richard.
Richard, excuse me for breaking in, but while he's working on his audio, we had a motion to approve the minutes in a second, but not a vote. Maybe we could take a quick vote just to approve the minutes. I don't think we voted.
Oh, okay. Very good. Members need to vote on the minutes, the approval of the minutes for April 13th, 2021. The meeting minutes, there's been a motion, it's been approved. May I have a full vote? Aye.
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 All right. Olga?
Sorry, I'm muted. Aye.
Okay, very good. And any luck with Major Reeves and his audio?
He's having audio problems, Richard. I can answer the questions for you.
Okay, so where are we with respect to Member Williams asking the police department to reach out to the African American community?
Well, I wasn't here for the last meeting, Brian, but I'm going to just tell you what we have done and what we've continued to do here in the police department to reach out to our African American community. And one of the things that I love doing is partnering with the NAACP. I personally have gone on one of their meetings and had called open mic for an hour and a half. And I think people actually ran out of questions because we kept it going so long, and the questions were phenomenal. It was training, it was hiring, it was procedures, it was use of force policy, really good questions. So after I did mine, Major Jenkins has had the opportunity to go on and do a presentation as well. And the questions were along the same lines with, how we do what we do with hiring and recruiting and things like that. And I'm happy to report July 12th, Major Reeves is going to have an opportunity to go on an NAACP meeting. They've invited us to come and present again on July the 12th. I will be out of town on a much needed vacation at the lake somewhere. So Sean's graciously offered to step in for me and present. And I'm very excited for that opportunity. And I think everybody on the committee knows the relationship I have with our African American Pastors Council. They have me on speed dial. We are continually talking weekly, monthly. We do our meetings. The only thing that kind of hampered us, well, obviously a lot of things hampered us, but was COVID. So our in-person pastors breakfast, I miss that home cooking that we would do, and we would get together and share ideas. And the thing that I like the most about it, and I think both the majors would agree with me, is we just didn't, for the first several years we were doing this, we kept it just at the African American Pastors Council level. Well, now we've opened it to all clergy in Charlottesville, Albemarle. So when we meet, it's all clergy, which I really, truly enjoy. That's given us an opportunity to make more connections in the community, and people are able to bring concerns to me from their parishioners. In addition to that, we've spent a lot of time, as Doug knows, down in Esmont during COVID. We've done a lot of work down in that community, making sure we were getting people to the vaccination site. I actually had my officers, as did the fire department, picking citizens up and driving them to the vaccination site so we could get that taken care of. And then the thing that we do that I love the most is every Thanksgiving we hand out turkeys. So this year they went from the Keswick Church to Keswick and Esmont, where we did both churches. And I had a showing of 8 or 9 officers at both events, and couldn't have been happier with being able to just get out there. And and answer questions that some of the citizens may have about their police department that they don't know. What a great opportunity to do the one-on-one interfacing with our community and speak with us and be able to answer questions. So Richard, I hope that answers your question. Brian, I wasn't here, and I hope that answers your question from last meeting of what we're doing here with the Acpd and getting in our community.
Brian, do you have any more questions for the chief?
No, I don't, Chief. Thank you so very much for that update, and continue doing the good work. And I know things will continue to pay off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, very good. Well, we're going to move right along then to the major topic today to discuss, which has been ongoing. It's, of course, police body cameras. Where are we? And what is the current plan? And welcome, Lieutenant Kevin Miller. And during your presentation, please signal when there's a reasonable stopping point so that I can have the members go around and ask a few questions, and then you'll continue to the next section of the presentation. So with that being said, welcome, Kevin Miller.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to share my screen and see if I can get the PowerPoint up there for everybody. Is everybody seeing the PowerPoint? We're all good to go?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. First off, let me introduce myself, and thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Kevin Miller. I'm a lieutenant, as he said, and I work in the department's Office of Professional Standards. I haven't had an opportunity to meet all you guys, so I wanted to just take a second and kind of tell you a little bit about what I do. So in the Office of Professional Standards, I work directly for the chief, and we're what's commonly used to be referred to as internal affairs. So we do investigate officer complaints and do serious investigations, but we also, in addition to that, we do a bunch of internal audits for the department, everything from auditing our vehicle inspections that's going on every day out in patrol, to auditing the petty cash that we have throughout the department, and we prepare a quarterly report to the chief and the rest of the command staff of how those audits are turning out so that we can keep on top of things. The goal is to fix issues before they become problems. And that's kind of what I do here with the chief, and took over this body cam project and started some research. I'm one of many throughout the years at the agency that's kind of worked on this, and I'll give you a little bit of history about it, and hopefully we'll be able to move along. So history of body cams is police in the United Kingdom began using body cameras in 2005. And they were one of the first professional police forces in the world to actually begin deploying body cameras. And that's kind of not surprising, because if you follow police work at all, the UK is normally on the cutting edge of police work when it comes to things like that. In 2013, by 2013, a study found that 1/3 of police departments throughout the United States have used some sort of body cameras. Now, that might not be a full deployment of patrol or full deployment of their agencies, but they had body cameras somewhere and they were utilizing them in some form. And then, of course, in 2016, the Bureau of Justice Statistics found that nearly half of 12,267 police agencies in America were using body cams. And the reason there was such a large spike is, as you may know, is an incident that happened in 2014 in Ferguson, Missouri. And after that happened in 2014, the interest in body cams skyrocketed. Every police department was trying to get the body cams out because they didn't want to be the next Ferguson. They didn't want to have transparency issues, and they felt this was the method to do that. So there was a huge spike. Getting up to more recent history, in 2020, New Mexico passed a law requiring all police officers to wear body cameras in the state of New Mexico. Also in 2020, the Congress had legislation pending to make it mandatory for all federal police officers to wear body cameras. That legislation failed in Congress not because of the body cameras. There was actually bipartisan support on the body cameras, but there was other items in that legislation that was attached that didn't gain enough support to make it to a full vote. And then just recently in Virginia special session, there was body camera legislation brought up in the state of Virginia to make it mandatory for all of our officers statewide to wear body cameras and deploy body cameras. And that also failed, not again because of the body cameras, but it was because of funding. There was no funding attached to it. There was bipartisan support for the body cameras, but there was an argument of how it was going to be funded and who was going to pay for it. Some thought localities should shoulder the cost of that. Some thought the state should pay for it, and some thought that the federal government should pay for it. So it really didn't make it anywhere. However, we do predict, the command staff's had several conversations about this. We do predict this is going to come up again in the future. And it's going to eventually come to a point to where it will be required sometime in the future. What they did pass, though, is they did pass a law requiring departments with body cams to actually have a policy governing the body cameras in the state of Virginia. So if you're a police department in the state of Virginia and you have body cameras, you must have by state law a policy that governs the use of those body cameras. And that was subsequently passed. So then there's the issue of the effectiveness. Well, you know, there's this idea that if you deploy body cameras, one, your use of forces will go down and that your citizen complaints will go down, and that this is kind of a magic bullet, so to speak, in policing to effectively regulate policing. However, 2017, there was a study in DC that examined 2,000 officers, and they found that body cameras had a negligible effect on behavior. They just didn't feel that it was a significant behavior change one way or another to think that the body cameras actually had an impact. In 2018, there was a study in Milwaukee PD, 504 officers, and they found that body cameras had no effect on the likelihood officers would use force in the course of their duties. But the Department of Justice has come out about these two studies, because these are two very large studies, you know, 2,000 officers, 500 officers. And they state that they've got research of 19 different studies, and that 11 of the 19 have shown a reduction in use of force. And that's pretty strong evidence that they're citing there. And then also 20 out of the 26 studies that they've received in measuring citizen complaints show a sizable reduction in citizen complaints against officers wearing body cameras. Lawrence research also shows, Lawrence research also shows a decrease in complaints against officers throughout. So as of 2019, Virginia, hold on one second, I'm having technical difficulties. This one. Okay. All right, I'm going to have to reshare my screen. I apologize that my slides were not.
That's all right, Kevin. They just weren't advancing. We were only seeing your first slide.
Okay. 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 Well, I'm on Virginia.
I thought you were still doing your introduction, Kevin.
Yeah, but it's weird because it's showing my screen on the right one here, but apparently it's not showing it on the correct one with you guys. So let me stop share.
Technology is great until it's not.
Exactly.
All right. Are you guys seeing the effectiveness slide now?
Nope.
Let's load it, Kevin. Give it a second.
Okay. Y'all know y'all got to stop me. I get to rolling on this body camera stuff. I've been into it so much that.
Well, actually, your information was so informative that we really didn't need the slides.
I completely agree. I was so into what you were saying, I wasn't paying attention to the video.
I will ask though, I would love to have the presentation at some point after the meeting. It would just be great to have it.
Sure, no, it's part of the meeting minutes for sure, and I will be happy to make sure that you get that. I do need to cite a couple of my sources in it. I don't have my sources cited, but if we're going to share it out, I'd like to cite the sources in there that I got my information from. How's it doing now? Is it showing anything?
Not yet.
All right.
There we go.
All right, so y'all are on the effectiveness slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is great.
How about now? Is it going back and forth?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. All right, so where's Virginia at? How's Virginia doing? Well, as of fall of 2019, the Comp Board listed that out of 120 localities that attended the Commonwealth Attorneys Conference, 23 didn't have body cameras for sure, and 10 were unknown. Albemarle County was listed as unknown in that. But regionally, with other agencies we deal with a lot, Charlottesville, UVA, Waynesboro, Henrico, Richmond, they all deploy body cameras, and as you all know, we do not. It's estimated that at least 34% of the 370 police and sheriff's offices in the state of Virginia have body cams at this point in time. And Richard, this would be my point for questions. This would be my first break for questions, if anybody has any. Okay, so with that, I'm going to move on. So when we were looking at body cam platforms, actually,
I'm sorry, Kevin. I was trying to unmute. This is there was a pilot a couple of years ago. Can you speak to that? Is this the right time to kind of maybe?
Yep, I was getting ready to go into it. I'm glad you brought it up. Thanks. So a couple of years ago, although we're doing a body cam deployment now, there was a pilot with our agency to where we had some taser cameras. We had some taser body cams, and we were utilizing those kind of on a T&E type basis. And there was several problems with that. One, we have in-car cameras from WatchGuard systems, and the taser cams don't integrate with WatchGuard because they are competing agencies, so they don't share information. So what would happen is an officer actually had to come into the police department every day and make sure they put their camera into the dock in order to download that to a different software system so that it could be viewed. And that's problematic for us on a couple of reasons. One, we're a huge county. And a lot of times, if we're out working the Crozet, Greenwood area out in Sector 8, as it's called here, that officer may never come into the police department during an entire tour of duty. And if the officer doesn't come in and download the video, then the camera will eventually get full and stop recording because it has no more data storage. There was also the issue of taser when they first came out, and this is probably not the way it is now. Their video camera software was proprietary. And the reason that's an issue is because you had to have their drivers in order to play the video back. And they charged you storage. You had to go with their storage system. So this creates an issue of once you start putting your videos on there, you're required by law to keep access of them. And then if you decided you could no longer afford taser, you didn't have access to all your old videos because it was a proprietary software. They actually faced a lot of pushback from that, and some departments threatened to sue, and they've actually changed that now. But when we were doing the pilot program, if we would have determined that the cost was just not worth it, we would have lost all the video we had, and we were required to keep it by law. That's why Taser was giving away free body cameras several years ago, because they knew once they got you in the system, you would be required to pay that subscription fee for 30 to 40 years because the State Library of Congress requires you to keep that video. So that's, it was a great business model for them. We'll give you free cameras, but then the department was on the hook for a long period of time. There was also an issue of those cameras with battery life. We work a 10-hour shift, and the battery life of those cameras were only good for about 8 hours. So towards the end of the shift, the camera would shut down and would no longer record. So that pilot program, because of all these obstacles, we decided that it was not a good fit for us and didn't work. for what we were doing. And it kind of, although we do still have some of those taser cameras from the pilot program, we haven't deployed them for a few years now because of all those obstacles. Mr. Walker, does that answer your question?
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Absolutely. So the camera we're looking at going with is the WatchGuard V300, and this is why these are the reasons we went with that camera. One, it uses our existing platform. Although WatchGuard offers a library service, just like Taser does, that you pay a subscription fee for, what we did, because we have a wonderful IT department, is we actually installed a server here at the police department. And we save our videos directly to our server, and then it's backed up with a third party that we use to back up all of the county software system. So, and that was actually way more cost effective for us than paying the subscription fee. It kind of kept the cost in-house, and it kept us having domain and control over all of our videos. So that was a great plus for us. Two, it has a 12-hour battery life. So since we work 10-hour shifts, even if an officer gets held over, there should be really few times that the battery of this camera dies and is no longer functioning for an officer while on duty. So that was another plus for that. It also has real-time integration. And what that means is if I'm in a patrol vehicle and I have my body camera on, the in-car camera and my body camera are recording at the same time. And when it downloads, it syncs, so that if you're reviewing the video, you can actually see, you can put each camera split screen up in front of you, and you can see live time, second for second, what the officer's seeing and what the car is seeing. And as we all know, there's been several cases across the country where a camera was at the wrong angle, so it just didn't catch something. And you see it sometimes where there's officers with two body cams. The officer that's actually utilizing the use of force, his camera doesn't catch what's going on. And it's actually a backup officer's camera that shows, you know, the knife in the suspect's hand or something of that nature. So having that to where you can pull it up, it's not only ease of use because it's the same system, it almost makes it idiot proof. And, you know, we like things that are idiot proof for cops. That's why we put all those check boxes on the ticket so that they know exactly what they're supposed to write down. It just makes it easier for everybody. It's also a very lightweight camera. As you know, officers carry a ton of equipment already. They have a duty belt on that's about 32 pounds worth of equipment. And this camera weighs 6.8 ounces. And because we're integrating it with the in-car camera, the officers will no longer have to carry the in-car camera microphone. So instead of adding a piece of equipment, we're actually just swapping a piece of equipment. You used to carry the in-car microphone. Now you're going to carry the body cam instead. It's only 6.8 ounces. And the body camera, just like our in-car cameras, has the ability to recover video from previous days, even when the camera wasn't on record. So the way these cameras work is they record in a loop, and they're constantly recording in the loop, not audio, but video. And then when you actually hit the record button, the camera automatically saves whatever you set it up to. For us, it's 2 minutes. That's what we have our in-car camera set at. It actually saves the 2 minutes prior to you hitting the record button. So if I was out speaking to a suspect in a domestic violence and he hauls off and punches me, and then I reach down and hit my camera, I've got the 2 minutes before, so you'll actually see the officer being struck by the person. And that's been very, very helpful with us on DUI stops and things of that nature. You have a car run off the road in front of the officer, and the officer wasn't even expecting it. And then he reaches up and turns his lights on. And because that 2 minute loop is recorded ahead of time, the evidence of him running off the road and hitting the curb is automatically captured. So these cameras, these body cams, have those exact same features. And here's a little video kind of show. Hopefully it'll play. Is it playing for everybody? So this year we're very excited to introduce the is a detachable battery product for the
detachable. Pardon me.
Bless you. The audio is not playing, Kevin, but we can see the video.
The audio is not playing?
No.
Can you hear it now or no?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
It starts with audio and then the audio just ceases.
And if it's just a thing to give them perspective of the camera with it actually being warm, you can let it play out if that's beneficial.
If you
Okay.
could, send that either as a link or as a file when you send out the presentation, that would be good too.
Okay, yeah, it's actually embedded in the presentation, so it'll be in the presentation when I send it out.
Okay.
For sure. Gotta get my PowerPoint back.
Kevin, you just going to go back to sharing your screen again, and we can skip the video?
Yeah, I thought I was sharing my screen, and then it just showed up that somebody else had taken over. How about now? Can you see my screen now?
Yep, got it.
Is the video playing?
It is playing, but the audio is not really good. If you just want to fast forward the video to where they show a point of view of the camera, that'd be great.
Okay.
On there.
So I'll talk about it here. Let me get it and pause it. So that camera is held on with a magnet. So there's a magnet brace that goes underneath the officer's shirt, and then that camera is put on there, and then there's a little button beside it that he flips down, and that it holds on with a magnet, and it's incredibly hard to remove it, believe it or not. It's kind of genius the way they set it up, because I've seen other ones that attach, but what happens is if your shirt rips or something of that nature, the camera just falls off on the ground. But because this is actually magnetized, I know during the T&E, Major Jenkins tried to rip the camera off of the gentleman that was there, and he struggled mightily, and I know he works out every day. So the force of the magnet is fairly impressive on the camera. And as he showed, the batteries actually come off of this. So as we roll the program out and we're able to do things, eventually we would like to get a point where each officer has an additional battery in their car, so that if something happens, they can just quickly swap out and they're up and ready to go. They don't need to come to the PD. They don't need to pick up a new camera. They get to stay in the field and keep going. So that was another plus for this feature, for this particular camera. But as you can see, it's chest mounted. It's not the ones, I know that they make cameras that mount to the side of the glasses, and that gives you an eyesight view of the officer. But in researching these, we found a lot of problems. One, as soon as the officer moved fast, the camera was gone. It would fall, the glasses would fall off, or as soon as you start to wrestle with somebody, the camera's down behind the officer's back, and it just wasn't a good fit. And two, a lot of the officers who don't routinely wear glasses had problems with the glasses hurting their ears. A few hours into the shift, because of the weight of the camera and just pushing down on the ears, it became uncomfortable for the officers. So we'll go on to the next slide. So our scope of our grant implementation is this, okay? We're only doing 58 cameras, not 85. We're doing 58 cameras from the grant. We are purchasing other cameras that we're going to deploy as well from some leftover CIP money. And then we also had 20 units for cars on hand that WatchGuard let us send back in exchange for the upgraded model that included the body cam. And because they allowed us to do that, we were able to upgrade and add those body cameras for the cost of about $500 a piece. So we're hoping to get our entire patrol division from first sergeant down issued cameras. We're hoping to get our traffic officers, the 5 traffic officers, And then our 5 canines also issued body cameras that they keep with them day in and day out that's in their car for them to deploy. And then we're going to have about 5 standalone units that we keep here at the police department that can be checked out by officers in other areas. For instance, if investigations is going to serve a search warrant today, they can stop by, grab the 2 or 3 cameras, whatever they need, and they can go out and have those when they when they go to the search warrant. Or if our POP team has a community event scheduled, our POP team can come out, those 2 officers can grab a couple cameras and wear them during the community event. Once the community event is done, they bring it back to the station and put it into the docking station so that it's there for other officers to check out if they should be needed. And this is what we're looking at. So for the grant, our initial purchase of cameras and equipment is $93,541. There is a service cost to upgrade our current cameras and installation fees from East Coast. And we estimate that at right around $17,400. And the reason that's an estimate is because East Coast charges us by the hour. And we don't know exactly how long it's going to take them to do it. It kind of depends on how the car was set up to begin with. There may be some that it only takes them an hour and a half to do. And then there may be others that it takes them 4 hours to do. So we wanted to estimate high so that we didn't get ourselves in a situation where we were extremely over budget. And we estimated that 5 hours per car on 58 cars, $60 an hour. And that's how we came up with that number, which gives us on this one a total project cost of $110,941. That's the grant cameras. And as you guys know, we're paying for that. $50,000 is coming from our asset forfeiture funds. $50,000 is a match by the state. And then the other money is going to be from our unspent vehicle maintenance budget. We had some money. One of the positive things with COVID is we didn't put quite as many miles on the car as we did beforehand. So we didn't have as many breakdowns. So we had a little bit of money left in that. And that's where the other $10,000 is coming from, is from our vehicle maintenance. Now, here are the additional non-grant cameras. We had 21 new in-car systems that were eligible for a trade-in. Those are the ones I was telling you about. Those were $500 a unit. So we were able to get 21 cameras for $10,500. That's capital improvement budget money that we're using for that. And then we are ordering 5 full in-car systems to include the body cams, which again is just a $500 fee for us when we buy it on the front end like that. So that's $2,500. And that's in the vehicle replacement budget, because when we replace a vehicle already, we're putting a new camera system in that vehicle when we do the replacement. So we're pulling that $2,500 from there. We're just kind of absorbing it. And then there was 28 additional body worn cameras and conversion kits. That's right around $45,000. And this is capital improvement budget from 2019 that was unspent and then it was brought forward. And it was specified for camera upgrades. So it was money that we had already allocated for camera upgrade and switch outs that we brought forward because we hadn't spent that money and we were able to get the grant and implement this program. We're able to use it there instead. So there's some reoccurring costs to this implementation that you all should be aware of. And we were able to project that out. So Carl Stowell estimated that, remember I told you we're using our own server, so we've already paid for that, so there's no cost for that, but we do pay the backup company that backs up all of the video and storage, data storage, digital data storage for the county. We are already paying them, and currently that comes out of IT's budget. And Carl was very frank, and he was like, he said, although that comes out of our budget, there's no way our budget can sustain if you double the amount of video you're recording every day. And that's what we're looking at. We're going to double our video every day. And so we've estimated that the storage backup fee to cost us right around $1,000 per month moving forward. There's also the issue of FOIA. All agencies that have deployed body cameras have seen a significant sharp rise in FOIA requests. And somebody has to process each and every one of those requests. Even if it's video we're going to deny, we're required to research that video, see how large it is, and then we have to respond to them telling them that we're not going to give them the video, but we have to tell them how much video is there that we're refusing to give them. So even though we know we're not going to give video in a lot of cases on FOIA, we're still required to actually, there's man hours that go into doing that, to researching that and seeing how much video we're going to deny. So if there's 4 officers on the scene, we'll have to go to all 4 officers and see how much video they captured, how much data it is, and then we'll have to respond back to that FOIA request saying we're denying it. But we were prepared for that. So not only do we have a part-time FOIA person that handles our FOIAs currently, we have restructured our agency to my office now. The Office of Professional Standards has myself, and we have a first sergeant that was transferred over here that is helping me out. And the first sergeant is going to assist in this body cameras. In fact, this body camera program is going to be one of his main responsibilities. He's going to be responsible for the rollout of training and all of those things. And he's going to help with the FOIA request and try to process that. And then we're going to kind of wait and see, talking with the command staff, the chief and the deputy chiefs. We're going to see how much FOIAs go up, and then we might have to rethink this at a different time. If we are inundated with FOIAs, then there may be a discussion that happens in the future about the part-time FOIA position may have to become a full-time FOIA position. But, you know, we don't know that it's ever going to get there. So we wanted to wait and kind of see. We have infrastructure in place to handle this as of right now, and we'll just kind of see where it leads us in the future.
Kevin, I just want to let you know that we need to leave time for questions. How much longer do you think this your presentation would be?
I have 3 more slides after this one, so I can definitely speed it up if that's what you need me to do, Mr. Hewitt.
Yeah, I think so, because I'm sure the members have a number of questions that they'd like you to opine on. So please do.
Okay. Okay. So we also have a yearly licensing fee. We have to pay $150 for licensing every single year on every camera we have. And that's because we don't pay a subscription fee to the software service. And then as we add an officer right now, as I told you, you're looking at a $500 additional cost. So as a department grows, there'll be an additional $500 cost. So right now, we have the body camera order down at OMB, and we're just waiting for them to place the order. I've been told 8 weeks on shipping is what I've been told. It used to be 4 to 6 weeks, but apparently everything shipping is getting extended. So I've been told 8 weeks on shipping, which makes us right around the beginning of August. We should start implementing these cameras into our evening shift officers' cars and getting them deployed. Total scope of this purchase is 112 units. 107 of those are working with in-car cameras and 5 standalone units. As everyone knows, the board approved on June 2nd for us to go forward, and that was great news. So we were able to move on that. After evening shift is done in August, we're then going to go to daylight shift and then midnight shift. The reason we picked those shifts is because based on community contacts, our statistics show that evening shift has more community contacts than the other 2 shifts at our agency. So, and then daylight is second. So that's the way we're deploying the cameras. Evening shift has the most community contacts. They're getting the cameras first. Daylight's getting them second. And then midnight shift will get them last there. And we're looking at to start them late October, hoping to have full conversion and implementation by January 1st of 2022. The timeline is contingent, though, on East Coast Customs and how fast they can switch these cars over. You know, the faster they can get the cars done, the faster we'll get this implemented. I told you that First Sergeant Wysick that works with me, he's going to be implementing training to all the patrol shifts, and he's going to be training the Commonwealth attorney staff on how it works. We've already reached out to them in reference to that. And I'm working with CAPE on media messaging. I did a bunch of interviews. I got another email this morning. The Daily Progress wants to interview me on this, and I'm going to take care of that. And then once we actually get the cameras, we're going to have the media come back again and actually see the body cam and see how it works in the car and do another push at that point in time. And that's the end. Is that fast enough for you, Mr. Hewitt?
It certainly is. Why don't we start off with Brian Williams, and then we'll have John, and then Olga, and then of course supervisors, etc. So Brian, do you have some questions for the lieutenant?
Just comments, Lieutenant Miller. Excellent presentation, great information. I look forward to receive the slide deck. I know you kind of talked about rolling it out in terms of implementation, but also utilizing the media to kind of help roll it out. Are there any additional strategies to kind of roll it out to kind of better alert the public too? Will you all post it on the website to kind of highlight the essence of your presentation?
As far as the website and the presentation posting, I'll defer to the chief on that. I'm not really sure how that works with your all's minutes, how that gets done. I do know that we have planned some social media posts on it and to push out on there. And I actually talked with Siri Russell last week, and we talked about maybe doing some directed informational flyers, maybe to the African American Pastors Council, maybe to the NAACP and some of our minority community groups. I know the LGBTQ community plus community was another one we talked about maybe doing some flyers for. Right now we're in the process of trying to figure out exactly what information they would like to know. And I think one of the things we come up with was our policy, when we're going to turn them on, when we're going to turn them off, things of that nature. But that is in the discussion and in the works in this rollout, Mr. Williams.
One other point too, and I don't know if you guys thought about it too, but could there possibly be a way to kind of involve the school district, the county school district with this, to kind of maybe alert those high schoolers who might be driving, but just kind of see if that might be a possibility too?
Well, you know, that's a very good point. And we're all figuring out how the new school safety officer plan is going to work. But I do know that normally during the driver instruction portion of our schools, an officer would come in and do a 1 or 2 hour block. And I'm very hopeful that that's going to continue as they go through driver's ed. And this is absolutely something we could incorporate in that block of instruction when the officer's already there talking to the students about traffic safety and how to act when you get pulled over and things of that nature.
All right.
Thank you.
John, do you have any questions for the lieutenant?
Well, a couple of quick ones. Kevin, that was just a great presentation. You could follow it with or without the slides. It was very, very good. You mentioned that the information on the cameras was not foilable. Is that what I heard?
No, sir. I apologize if that's the impression. So if there is video footage that's being used as evidence in court, it's not subject to FOIA at that time because it's evidence, and we would deny a FOIA request. There is footage that could be FOIAble depending on the circumstances, and there's a bunch of ins and outs on whether or not we would disclose that. And I work with the county attorney's office, actually Amanda, on those when we get those video requests of how we're going to do it. But there's also, in addition to FOIA, Mr. Springett, there's also the issue of subpoenas. When we have officers respond to domestic calls and subsequently a divorce follows, that's unfortunate, we get subpoenas for the videos for the divorce proceedings. And I've handled a couple of those where we've had officers on domestic incidents, and then, a few months later, a subpoena will show up wanting the video transmission because one party in the divorce is trying to show how the other party is unreasonable, and that's the grounds for the divorce type thing. So there's actually quite a few requests that come in for things like that in addition to FOIA.
Thank you. One last quick question. What is the current view of the officer's reaction?
Oh, I got asked this by NBC 29 the other day when I was doing an interview. Our officers they want the cameras. What they found in our agency, and I think you see this in agencies elsewhere, is cameras have exonerated a high percentage of officers. There's a study that I just read in preparing for this meeting that shows that cameras have only been used in the prosecution of officers 8% of the time, but it's been used in the prosecution of citizens like 93%. So the officers want that recorded, that actual recorded transcript of what they said. And, I know the first thing that comes to people's minds is that, somebody filing a false complaint on an officer. But a lot of times it's not necessarily a false complaint when emotions are running so high, because people don't call the police when they're having a really good day. When emotions are running so high, it's hard for people to remember actually what was said, the exact words of what was said and done. And what you'll find in a highly stressful incident, if there's 3 people there, all 3 people will have a slightly different of account of what occurred. So officers are excited about the cameras. They want to have that recording, and they see it as almost an insurance policy for themselves, quite frankly.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Great question, John. Olga, do you have something for the lieutenant?
Hey, good morning. Actually, that was my question. The one that was just asked, Lieutenant Miller, was just the reactions of the officers, and, if they are welcoming, this and all of that. So that was just answered, but that was, that was my top concern was, how do they feel about it, and how are they welcome?
Yeah. In fact, if we have an officer's,
so I'm glad to hear it.
Good deal. Thank you. Well, in fact, if we have an officer's car cameras, sometimes there's technical difficulties, as you can imagine. If their car camera goes down, they're calling their sergeant. They want a spare car with a working camera. They want that camera. So it's good.
Yeah, especially nowadays, I think that's a, much needed, thing. It's unfortunate that it's needed as much as it is, but, it's nice for people to see, what officers are seeing and what they're actually experiencing in the heat of the moment. So very nice.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Next up is going to be Diantha, then Donna, and then finally Doug. So Diantha, what do you have for the lieutenant?
Just a comment really quickly, and then I have a couple of questions. Kevin, I hope that we are proactive with our outreach to the schools as far as the driving piece, because I think that was a really good catch, that we suggest or ask if you all could be involved in those driving courses and education on body cameras for the kids. I think that's really important.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd just be proactive and not wait for them, because they may not realize, right? That this is even going on, who knows? Couple of quick questions. Are you all going to be placing in the CIP an ongoing line item of some sort about replacement and upgrades for these units and these cameras? I think that's going to be important. And I don't know, but it would seem like to me, of course, school buses are hugely expensive, but we know how many we're going to be upgrading and doing every year. I would just hope that would happen so we're not caught short.
Sure. So the plan with that is that it'll be in the vehicle replacement, because it comes as a kit with the in-car camera that we already do. So it'll be included in that. So we'll update that cost that we're already adding in there to the $500. Now, what you may see in the CIP moving forward is probably not from us, but from IT, is the upgrade of server space and things of that nature. So my hope is once we get this implemented, as we replace the cars, now we will still replace some cameras here or there, but our we only have 5 floating cameras that are not attached to vehicles. Okay. So obviously replacing those cameras, while, right around $1,300, $1,400 a piece is what we would replace those for. So although that's an expense, but since the other cameras are being replaced in the cars, the majority of them will be included in that. And you will also see that in the new officer package. So when you get a cost of a new officer now, body cam will be included in that.
All right, that's helpful. And just one other comment. I know, and maybe this is better for Doug, but I'm or part of this question. I'm really trying to be clear on who actually controls release the video. It's not, is it Ron, or is it our Greg Kampner, the county attorney's office? Ron, yeah.
can answer that, Doug, if you'd like. That combination, that would be us working with the county attorney's office on a case-by-case basis, Diantha, to determine whether it's releasable under FOIA.
Okay.
And we do that with the in-car camera now already. Okay. Request for in-cars. So we actually have that system in place.
Just adding, it's a team effort, right? We're all on the same team here. At the end of the day, if there's a disagreement and we're taken to court because of a failure to provide when someone thinks we should have, the county attorney's office will defend the decision.
Okay, that's helpful. And I have just one other question. I noticed, and this is maybe more for Doug, but I noticed that we have a request now from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for a new position to deal with the body cameras. And I'm just trying to understand the relationship and what other additional expenses might we see because of the body cameras. And maybe that's a longer discussion for another day, but.
Well, parts of it probably are, Ms. McKeel, and that was actually the comment that I was going to make when it was my turn. So good, I'll go ahead and address it now. I'll just acknowledging that there is an open question about any additional requirements within the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. We're certainly aware of a request for 1.5 additional FTE. And frankly, I know that Kevin and the folks in Acpd have been engaging with the Commonwealth Attorney for several months, trying to then determine what the actual impact was going to be. I don't think that that's an answerable question right now. My view is that we'll really need to get into the program and see what the experience is and let the experience and the data then drive what the implications are, not just for the Commonwealth's attorney, but as you heard Kevin mention, with our own ability to respond to FOIA requests and that sort of thing. So there's going to be a number of issues that are going to have to be fleshed out through experience and data and facts that will inform them what the overall operating costs of the program are going to be, in my view.
Great, thank you.
That's the exact
great presentation.
That's the exact right answer, Doug. All right, so Donna, you're up. What do you have for the lieutenant?
Well, thank you, Mr. Hewitt, first off, for inviting me to be a part of this very important meeting this morning. And Lieutenant Miller, that was an exceptional presentation. And what I think a number of us commented on is even without the PowerPoint working at the beginning, you had such good information that it was so easy to follow you. So we weren't death by PowerPoint, which many of us have experienced, in other situations. As a general comment, I believe that it's clear what a supporter I am of law enforcement, and in particular, Albemarle County Police Department. And you have earned that respect, not only from me, but from our community. So if I make a comment in a moment, it's not about Albemarle County Police. It's about things that we have all observed around the country and other law enforcement agencies. And Chief Lance, I think the leadership that you have taken and it flows downhill. Leadership flows downhill. Your department does a really good job, and I'm supportive of it. It was interesting when you talked about whether the body cameras change behavior. I wonder if in years, as we continue to see more deployment of them, if we may see a difference in the outcomes from these earlier studies. But regardless of whether it changes behaviors, what we usually see in the news is the cell phone video that started halfway, for example, into an incident, and the body-worn cameras will allow us to see the whole incident. And that's really what I think is important, because if you're doing the right thing, as the statistics that you quoted show that 93% of the time, roughly, it's showing the officer did the right thing, and only in about 8% of the cases is there misconduct that's being pursued against the officer. Then by having the body-worn cameras that start from the very beginning, we are much more likely to be able to demonstrate that the officer is doing the right thing, rather than just having the cell phone video that comes in halfway through. And, by then the officer may be engaging in appropriate use of force and everything. So if you're doing the right thing, this is what we want to have. And I'm very pleased that in Albemarle County, we don't have a high incidence of officer misconduct that we have to look at. I saw from the funding, I believe it was $50,000 comes from the civil forfeiture. And I'm going to make a general comment. I am always a little concerned on civil forfeiture cases, because from around the country, what we've seen is the standard of proof for a civil forfeiture is very different from in a criminal case. And again, that's around the country. That's not talking about Albemarle County. That's just a general observation. I'm extremely pleased to see the extent and breadth of your move towards using the body-worn cameras. I'm really pleased to see the wisdom that went into making sure you're purchasing a product that is fully integrated with what we already have, which makes a whole lot more sense than the other. And so I'm just very appreciative. I think this is going to be another great marketing tool, frankly, for why our community can trust Albemarle County Police. So thank you very much. And again, Mr. Hewitt, thank you so much for inviting me to be here this morning.
It's great to have you. Doug, are you done, or you have another question?
No further comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, well then, Lieutenant Miller, I just want to tell you what a valuable asset you are to our community. And thank you, Ron, for hiring such fabulous personnel. If there's no other questions, we want to let you know that we appreciate everything you've done and the outstanding job. So we'll let you go. We do have one last item on the agenda, and of course, we're running a little late. So Ron, do you have a Chiefs update that you'd like to share, and on a more limited, because we're running a little late?
Absolutely, Richard. I just wanted to give an update on our staffing numbers and what I can do if anyone had an opportunity to watch Channel 19. I did an interview yesterday and at afternoon and evening. And the question was about recruiting, the numbers that we have coming out, taking the test, my staffing numbers versus my actual authorized strength. So I covered the whole gamut. And if you all would like, we could send a link out that kind of answers all the questions I was going to cover today because we're running behind. But just a quick snapshot, we're authorized 152. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, we were down 11. And today we're down 4 because I'm putting 7 in the academy.
Here, wonderful.
And we've hired a lot of local region folks. And you'll see in my interview that I prefer to hire local because they're invested here in this community. And they're more apt to want to stay longer because they have an investment here. So we're excited that we're at 148. Now, I will say it's not all unicorns and rainbows. As I said in the interview last night, we have attrition. Normal attrition is 3 to 5. I'm seeing it a little higher. I said it in the interview, 6 to 8. We do have more retirements coming September, October. So I might get to 152 for a half of a day. And then it's just, that's a continual struggle that we have. Supervisor Price, you have a question?
Chief, thank you. You know, you and I have had this conversation before. If your authorized number is 152, but 7 are at the academy, that means you've got 7 that are not actually on duty on patrol. And I would ask that the county look with your input as to whether the number should be increased in order to cover your, your average annual number of officers that are going through training or hospitalization or other disability or something, to make sure you actually have the number on patrol that you need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think what Don is getting at is sort of a buffer. So if the number is X and you're just bringing it to X, then why not have a graded delta so that you can, and the rough number for an officer is 100 grand. So that really goes back to Doug and the budget and of course the supervisors.
They do have an overhire allotment that they utilize that helps to address the gap between the hiring of individuals and the time that it takes to actually get them in the field. That's the, Fire Rescue has the same plan. I will also say that they don't have enough officers, so that's an ongoing issue that we'll continue to try to work to address at the staff level and at the board level. So I just say that that's a general comment. I see the chief nodding his head because that's what he's going to do. But getting our staffing numbers appropriate are both in terms of just whole numbers as well as the overhire issue. So I figured I'd say that so you wouldn't have to, Chief.
All right. Well, Doug, thank you for coming. And Donna, thank you for coming. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, then our next meeting, of course, is August 10th. And we look forward to seeing everybody here again for another compelling topic. Bye-bye.
It was a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.